My dad passed away. I don't know how to satisfy.
Well, they have coupons.
Okay. My dad learned how to work every day his entire adult life.
It's really easy. Over, under, and down. That's all you need to know.
She's not biting.
Hey, Shelley, did you get my presentation? Is Tracy on?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm trying to figure out. Why is it doing that?
Okay, we're all ready to go as far as sharing screen. I say that now.
Okay, good, because mine's not working.
Isn't this just a piece?
It's so nice, you know. Meetings will never be the same again after this.
Hello, Jesse.
Hello. Hi, Harold.
You?
I'm well. I'm hoping you are too.
Well, better.
I'm trying to find where you are. I see Pierre's screen, but I don't see yours. I see Bill. It's suddenly turning into romper room. Get my glass out.
Okay, Jess, I have a confession.
Don't say it. It's okay. Nobody has time.
Okay, good. See, everybody's gonna be curious now.
Let's see.
I think I hear a dog panting. Is that what I hear? It's not my dog.
Yes.
It's Harold's dog.
Hi.
Where's Carol?
So we'll deliver that in the house. It is there, so we can post them to that power in the house.
Tracy, is Harold on?
Yes, I just heard him.
Yep.
Yeah.
There he is.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna open this meeting of the Winter City Council at 6:30 on Tuesday, September 15th. Tracy, can we get roll call, please?
Councilmember Anderson? Councilmember Anderson? Harold, can you hear me?
Tracy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
She's muted.
Oh, okay, there, that helps.
There we go.
Councilmember Anderson?
Here.
Councilmember Lauren?
Here.
Councilmember New?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Here.
Mayor Cowan?
Here. Mr. Dunleavy, would you lead us in the pledge? Unmute yourself, John. John, are you there? Okay, Pierre, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
Of the United
of the United
States
States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic
for which
for which
it
it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always fun on Zoom. Okay, approval of the agenda. Shelley, is there any changes to the agenda?
Mayor, there's no changes to the agenda this evening.
Okay.
I would move to approve the agenda.
Here, second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember
Lauren.
Lauren and a second by Councilmember New for the approval of the agenda. Tracy, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Aye.
Mayor Cowan?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll move on to council and staff comments. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd start off with, on September 9th, I attended a Zoom meeting of the Yellow Solano Air Quality Management District. And that was on September 9th, and that was a Zoomer. And then on September 10th, I attended the Lower Treaty Creek Coordinating Committee. That was a Zoom meeting also. We did highlight that at the end of October, around October 30th, around that week, we're going to plan to start the salmon flows upstream into Peter Creek and take it from there. And then yesterday, on the 14th, I had a meeting with Assistant City Manager Shelley Gumby to review tonight's agenda. And that's my report.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Lauren.
Thank you. Since the last council meeting on September 2nd, I met with Catherine Campos from the Yolo Election Office with the Voting Center Working Group for the City of Winters. Also, I wanted to report that Eric Lucero provided the dimensions for the porch of the community center to the elections office during our meeting so that we could consider that outdoor space to help at the Voter Assistance Center. In the evening, I met with the Hispanic Advisory Committee about this year's modified celebration. We're not actually holding an event this year. We're just going to be decorating the downtown for the final week of September and allowing the restaurants to serve carnitas, specialty dishes of their own choosing. On September 11th, I attended the Three Oaks Park groundbreaking along with former city manager John Donlevy and most of my council colleagues. On September 13th, I, along with many people in Winters, went to the fire station to get our car washed to help with the earn money for the fire relief effort. On September 14th, I reviewed tonight's agenda with interim city manager Shelley Gumby. I also had a long planning session with the League of California Cities Sacramento Valley Division over how we're going to proceed during the annual conference, which is coming up in October. I also attended an executive session on the budget for the Yolo Subbasin Groundwater Agency. In the evening on September 14th, I also chaired the Yolo County Transportation District meeting. In the periphery during the last 2 weeks, I've been providing resources as needed to fire victims, working with the Greater Winters Community Fire Relief Fund. And if there is time tonight to report on that fund, I would be happy to provide some information. Thank you for the opportunity to serve.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead and report out about the relief fund now?
Okay, great. Per Rotary President Tamsen Schultz, so far we have disbursed $5,750 to 6 families, and we have 4 more families for an additional $4,250 to go out probably today. Each family is asked to fill out a form which both they and Tamsen sign, and it's kept for Rotary records. We'll be doing 2 rounds of giving, providing funds, provided we have enough funds to go around. Tamsen is also encouraging each family to talk to their neighbors and their friends who've been impacted and encouraging them to reach out and apply for funding. Current balance in the accounts, including funds due from Facebook, is $80,570. Supervisor Saylor brought in a donation from the Davis firefighters of $500. That total is $86,320. We're also expecting $3,000 from Davis Sunrise Rotary, and I will let Winters Police and Fire talk about their own accomplishments over the weekend. So we have a lot to give, and we just want to make sure that we support the community.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Bernew.
Thank you. On Thursday, September 3rd, I went to City College meeting, the land use and natural resources. I spent most of the time talking about how to fairly distribute money among all the jurisdictions. On Thursday, the 11th, nothing happened. On Thursday, the 15th, I met with Shelley to go over the budget, and that's it for this week, except coming to the meeting tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Biaggi.
Thank you, Mayor. So on September the 2nd, I also attended the election work group meeting. Happy to report that the Yolo County Human Resources Department, they've closed the applications. Are no longer receiving applicants for the election. They had an abundance of applicants, over 300 for all of Yolo County. So it's good to know that we have a lot of people interested in helping for the election. And thank you for everybody that stepped up and volunteered to work for them. On September 5th, I went downtown for the soft opening of one of the newest businesses downtown, Kona Ice. Welcomed them, and they're doing a great job. Just keep putting in new business in a space that was closed down for quite a while. So we welcome them. On September 8th, I met with Dave Dallasville in the afternoon to go over a couple items which were on the Planning Commission's agenda later that evening. So I attended the Planning Commission meeting that evening. On the 9th, I had a meeting with a resident who's having some issues with waste management and some of the services they're getting from them. On the 10th of September, I attended the Solano EDC meeting. On the 11th, the groundbreaking for the Three Oaks Park, which will be the biggest park in our city once it's completed. They're doing the first 2 phases. The 3rd phase will follow later. It's going to be really nice features out there. On the 13th, I also went by and dropped by the fire and police fundraiser for the fire relief fund, and I just want to thank the fire and police and all their cadets. They did a really good job out there with that event. On the 14th, I met with the interim city manager to go over tonight's agenda. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. On the 10th, I had a Zoom meeting for the Executive Commission to address homelessness. And then also on the 10th, I had a Zoom meeting for Valley Clean Energy. On the 11th, I also attended the groundbreaking for the new park. And also on the 11th, that evening, I met with John Pickerel and Chief Lopez to discuss ways to create emergency access down Main Street with the way things are currently arranged. And they were able to come up with a way to do it, and it was accomplished the very next morning. So good job there. Yesterday, I met with the interim city manager to review tonight's agenda. And then I'm also going to report out a little bit about our search for a new city manager. Bill and I have both been getting regular emails from Bobby Peckham. And as of the closing, receiving applications on Friday, she received 112 applications. And those came from 20 different states and 3 countries. We actually got application from China, Ecuador, and Nigeria. I'm not going to name all the states. You just know we got almost half of them. And she is going to narrow that down to the top 12, which she did over the weekend. And 5 of those are women. 4 of those are bilingual. They also speak Spanish. 9 are at the executive leadership level, and 3 are at department head level. And the council will be picking a day next Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday for an hour-and-a-half meeting to review all the applications. And then the current plan and schedule is to have an all-day interview session on October 2nd, and then follow-up interviews for the finalists on October 6th. So the times for all those will yet to be determined. I think that's all I have. Thank you, everybody, for all your hard work and extracurricular activities for the city. And now we're going to move on to public comment. And this is an opportunity for anybody in the public to speak on items which are not on tonight's agenda. And you can speak by raising your hand with the raise your hand icon, and Tracy will call on you so you can speak. Tracy, do we have anybody for public comment?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Wait, hold. Let's see. Okay, no, we're good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then we'll move on to the consent calendar. Shelley?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the consent calendar this evening, item A is the minutes of the special meeting that we held on August 25th. Item B is the minutes of the regular meeting that we held on September 1st. Item C is proclamation of City Council of the City of Winters to recognize Dan McGuire for his service to the City of Winters. Item D is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Winters to Carol Serna in recognition of her service to the City of Winters. Item E is a waiver of development agreement provision for the Callahan Estate subdivision. Item F is a waiver of development agreement provision for the Winters Highlands subdivision. And item G is a claim against the City of Winters.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or concerns from council on the consent calendar?
I have a question. Shelley, could you maybe go into a little bit more detail on the waiver of the development agreement provision for people at home, just so they know why we're proposing this?
Certainly. So in the development agreement for both the Callahan Estates and the Winters Highlands subdivision, there's a provision that they have to pay a pro rata share of a $90,000 urban water management plan. And that's based on a number of permits that have been issued, and we're coming up on those number of permits right now. However, when the city redid their impact fees, we included that 90,000 urban water management plan in our impact fee fund. So we're collecting their pro rata share on each building permit that's issued. So we would like to waive the item in their development agreement so that we're not collecting the fee twice. So otherwise we'd be collecting it through the development agreement and through the impact fee. So we're, because we changed up the impact fee study after we'd already adopted these development agreements, it's appropriate now to not enforce that particular section of the development agreement.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, if there's no other questions for staff, we can entertain a motion on the consent calendar.
New moves for approval.
Lauren will second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember New, a second by Councilmember Lauren. Tracy, can you do a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Anderson?
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Aye.
Mayor Callen?
Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, now we're going to move on to presentations, and we're going to present a proclamation to Dan McGuire and Carol Sienna, both of whom retired in recent months from their tenure at City of Winters. We'd much rather do this in person, and I do have them here socially distanced in the room with me, so we will be able to give them their proclamations and a picture that we have for them. And I'll read out their proclamations here one at a time. So we'll do Dan McGuire first. Come on up here. No. Yeah.
All right.
Close enough. Okay. Get some glasses so
Everybody sitting with their shirt on?
there you go. This is a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Winters honoring Dan McGuire for his outstanding service to the City of Winters. Whereas Dan McGuire's service within the Winters community has spanned more than 18 years, including the City of Winters, the Chamber of Commerce, the Winters Joint Unified School District, the Education Foundation, and the Rotary Club of Winters. And Dan's service with the Winters Chamber of Commerce included the expansion of services to members, the enhancement of the board of directors, upgrades to the Earthquake Festival, and the Chamber's participation with Youth Day. And whereas Dan served on the board of trustees for the Winters Joint Unified School District, bringing leadership at a critical time for the district during the 2008 financial crisis, and helped stabilize the district for the development of an overall strategic plan, which laid the groundwork for the many facility improvements and bond measures. As a member of the Winters Education Foundation, he has led for scholarships for teachers and support for classrooms. And whereas Dan's role with the City of Winters is significant as the economic and housing manager, leading the city toward key housing projects, including Orchard Village Apartments, Almondwood Apartment Rehabilitation, Winters Apartments 2, the Blue Mountain Terrace Senior Apartments, and the financial management for key loan, grant, and home purchase programs. And Dan was also integral in the renaissance of downtown Winters, playing a key role in the rehabilitation of 27 storefronts, all 4 phases of the downtown improvement projects, lease assistance programs, which brought such businesses as Art Guitar and Interpreted Wines, and it was Dan who was the project manager who made the Hotel Winners a reality. And Dan also was the main architect and project manager for the construction of Walnut Park, securing the grants and financial resources to make the park a reality. And in Dan's skill and determination, the city has secured literally millions of dollars for street, park, and construction projects, including funding for Blue Mountain Terrace Senior Apartments, downtown improvements, City Park, Walnut Park, and the soon-to-be constructed Winter Senior Center, for which he is the architect. And whereas Dan was a key liaison to the Winters business community, serving on the YOLO Workforce Improvement Board, the Chamber Board, and Solano Small Business Development Center, creating opportunities for businesses and workers alike. And whereas Dan served 2 terms as the president of the Rotary Club of Winters, leading the club to many projects, including the expansion of Rotary Park, water wells in Tanzania, and scholarships for Winters High School students for academic, trade, and culinary education. And he also was named Winters Citizen of the Year for many contributions within the community for education, business, community service, and his commitment to making Winters a special place for all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the City Council of the City of Winters thanks Dan McGuire for his 18 years of service as the City Economic Development and Housing Manager, Chamber Executive Director, President of Winters Joint Unified School District, and Winters Education Foundation, Rotary Club President, and his past Citizen of the Year, passed and adopted on the 15th day of September 2020. Thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you, Gary.
Here's a very nice framed picture.
So I'll do this in way under 3 minutes. My picture. Nice. I just want to thank the council. Staff's life is always so much easier when you have a council that's truly prepared. And I never attended a council meeting where the council hadn't fully read the packet and knew what the right questions were and what answers they were looking for. I'd like to thank my colleagues on the city staff. I can't tell you how many times Eric or Carol or Shelley or even EG jumped in to help me on stuff without me even asking. And last, but most importantly, my friends at Montgomery for allowing me to be part of this team. It was one of the highlights of my life. Thank you for that, John.
All right, thank you, man. Carol, your turn. I saved Carol for last because she's got more years. A proclamation of the City Council. The City of Winters honoring Carol Sienna for her outstanding service to the City of Winters. Whereas Carol Sienna's commitment to Winters has spanned almost 5 decades and resulted in amazing contributions to the youth of Winters, our library system, Winters Friends of the Library, our ecology, including Pewter Creek, and our everyday waste collection. Major city infrastructure projects, the renaissance of downtown Winters, and city water, wastewater, and storm drainage utilities. And whereas Carol has served multiple times as the president of the Winters Friends of the Library, leading one of Winters' top organizations, sponsoring community activities and programming with fundraising activities and helping build and open the Winters Community Library in 2006. Whereas Carol was an integral part of the Pewter Creek Park Master Plan, North Bank Trail Project, Habitat Plan, and the 5 phases of the Creek Realignment Project, which brought salmon back to the creek. It is through Carol that the Creek Trail system was realized and access to swimming in the creek became a reality for persons of all ages and abilities. And whereas Carol was the architect and project manager on the revolution of the city's solid waste programs, enhancing recycling, green waste, organics, and the collection systems. And whereas Carol was the project manager for the construction of multiple key city infrastructure projects, including the Pewter Creek Car Bridge, Moody Slough Overcrossing, better known as Carrollton Bridge, North Bank Trail projects, and many other bike and pedestrian projects. and programs which benefited all ages within the community. And whereas Carroll was a major part of all phases of downtown improvement programs, serving as a liaison with the business community and citizens to help make the project successful. Whereas Carroll has been the manager of key infrastructure projects, including the expansion of water and wastewater systems, relighting of sewer lines, construction of lift stations, construction of water well number 7, representing on key regulatory issues such as Chrome 6, and prepping the city for future stormwater regulations. And whereas Carroll has been a critical element in generating a culture of success within the city organization and was a key contributor to each and every department of the city. Now therefore be it proclaimed, the City Council of the City of Winters is hereby recognized Carol Sienna for her nearly 5 decades of service to Winters. Her 17 years as the city's environmental services manager, multiple stints as president of Winters Friends of the Library, and as past Citizen of the Year. Thank you so much for all you've done.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
I reiterate what Dan said, great council and all of our staff. It's very supportive. And Ed has pitched in here and there on most of the projects I've been involved with. And, definitely the last 16 and a half, 17 years has been a great adventure. Always something new and learning how to do things I never thought I'd be able to do. Sitting in a room full of engineers, holding my own, which was quite an accomplishment. Thank you for all the support over the years, and I'm still around working on stuff. So hope to see you more too. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you again, Carol and Dan, for all you've done for the city. So a couple of positions that are going to be quite difficult to fill, that's for sure. Okay, moving on. Emergency preparedness and evacuation planning. This section is going to be for seniors and people with access and functional needs. And Kate Laddish is going to give us a presentation along with Elaine Roberts-Muser. They are part of the Disaster Preparedness Subcommittee of the Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services. So take it away, Kate and Elaine.
Excuse me, Mayor, Jim Provenz, Yolo County Supervisor. I was going to introduce them.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
So I'm very glad to be here. It's great to be in Winters virtually, but even though I'm only virtually here, I did get a pass from Second District Supervisor Don Saylor. Thank you for that, Don. It's good to see everybody tonight. I've had the honor of chairing the Aging Commission, the Yolo County Aging Commission, for 12 years. And our commission really consists of some county staff and appointees of supervisors, but the most powerful element is the representatives of all of the city senior citizen aging commissions, Winters, Woodland, Davis, West Sacramento. And what we do is identify issues and problems, and then we work toward county solutions. And it's not us telling people what to do, it's us working with others to find some common answers. Our most recent project is the Evacuation Preparedness Report. We've been working on this for over a year, and I'm going to introduce some of the folks that worked on that report in a minute. But the idea of this is to come up with some recommendations that we presented to the county, and that we'll also be presenting to each city's senior commission, and as well as each city council. We don't expect it to be adopted per se. What we expect to do is to work with you and learn from you. It's really an iterative process where we put ideas out and make changes as we go along. We've done that at the county level. In fact, we found even before we were done with the report, one of the recommendations, which had to do with identifying people who needed to be evacuated so that we know what they are and come up with a plan for getting them out. The county already started implementing that before we even had the report in hand. We looked at some other issues like how to do a better job of making sure that the nursing homes not only have plans in place, but that they're ready to act, and that we help provide resources and training if they're not. And then, of course, an issue that came up because of winters around the power outages. We developed recommendations on that as well. During the COVID crisis, we were able to look at, for example, some of the testing that was going on when we had outbreaks in nursing homes, and realized that although the people who worked in nursing homes were being tested, people that worked for somebody else but came there every day and were there for about the same amount of time weren't being tested. And we were able to correct that through really an ad hoc recommendation that came up during the process. And so what we're asking to do with you is to work with you and develop approaches that we can take to other cities and the county and have this back and forth dialogue. And we expect this report to be a work in progress for a long time, because with each disaster, each emergency, we learn new things and have to develop new approaches. With that, I'm going to introduce a couple of people and then hand it over to Kate first, and then Elaine Roberts-Musser. Now, Elaine Roberts-Musser is the vice chair of the commission and also headed up the committee that drafted the report. She's an attorney. She does elder law in Davis, claims to be retired, but don't believe that. And she's active on a number of community fronts. And of course, Kate is a member of the In-Home Supportive Services Board, and of course, a very active member of Winters. And her help was just so important to our work. And I have to say that your senior commission was one of the most active and most powerful in this effort, so I want to thank you for that. Also with us today is Sheila Allen, who is the executive director of the Healthy Aging Alliance, and also serves as staff to the Aging Commission. And then, of course, Dana Carey is here, and she heads up our county's emergency services. With that, I will hand it over to Kate and Elaine. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you, Supervisor Provenza. Okay, Kate, take it away.
Actually, I'll have Elaine start things off here. Thank you, Supervisor Provenza, Mayor County.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us this evening. Can we have the next slide, please? Prior to COVID, the California State Auditor issued a report on an audit conducted in 3 counties, Butte, Sonoma, and Ventura. The purpose of the audit was to determine how well prepared each county was to protect vulnerable populations before, during, and after a natural disaster. Each county had recently experienced a deadly and destructive wildfire. The results of the audit were troubling. None of the 3 counties had implemented best practices, but neither had the state done its duty in supporting these counties. Next slide, please. More frightening is the incident of 2 nursing homes involved in the Santa Rosa fires. The directors and staff literally abandoned the residents to the ravages of the fires. Only because emergency workers and family members came to rescue them were the residents able to survive. Both nursing homes had their licenses revoked, and the administrators were banned from operating such a facility ever again. Next slide, please. This stark reality prompted Supervisor Jim Provenza to bring the issue of emergency preparedness for vulnerable populations to the Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services. An emergency preparedness subcommittee of the commission was formed to make sure those with access and functional needs are not forgotten in the county's emergency preparedness planning. Seniors, people with disabilities, individuals with language barriers, and those who depend on electrically powered medical equipment are particularly in danger during an emergency. Next slide, please. Winters has faced multiple challenges recently, such as inadequate help from PG&E during a public safety power shutoff, resulting in one small tent on a gravel lot not wheelchair accessible with only one outlet for charging. YOLO alerts that came too late or not at all to warn people on the outskirts of Winters to evacuate because of fires burning out of control, and no cooling center has been available recently in extreme heat conditions. Next slide, please. So the County Commission on Aging brought a series of recommendations on emergency preparedness to the Board of Supervisors just before the COVID pandemic hit. The Board of Supervisors accepted the recommendations and are now determining to what extent the county can implement them. Those recommendations have been prophetic, anticipating some of the very problems that have cropped up during COVID and the wildfires. These recommendations include identification, developing some kind of a system to identify those individuals with special needs that may require assistance in an emergency. Training, ensuring fire, police, and emergency services are trained on how to handle persons with dementia. Creating a rural community emergency response team, also known as a CERT, for the unincorporated parts of the county. Communication, improving the accessibility and navigability of the emergency preparedness section of the county website. Increasing the number and timeliness of YOLO alerts in clear language the public can understand. Identifying a contact person on the infectious disease team the public can communicate with. And resources, distributing free emergency kits to low-income supported recipients. The full report and revised recommendations are included in tonight's City Council packet. Next slide, please. The County Commission on Aging has also developed a voluntary plan of action for each city to follow in grappling with the issues surrounding emergency preparedness. We plan to bring the plan of action to each incorporated city senior citizens commission, including the Winters Senior Commission on Aging. The plan of action includes resources, finding out if your community has a special needs alert program to identify vulnerable citizens, a community emergency response team, also known as a CERT, resources for individuals who have electricity needs during a power outage, questions, a list of suggested questions to ask local fire, police, and emergency services, training, finding volunteers to start a train the trainer program who will educate the public on what to do if a disaster strikes. And now I would like to turn the presentation over to Kate Laddish.
Thank you, Elaine, and thank you, Supervisor Provenza, and thank you to Mayor Cowan and council members for inviting us for this presentation this evening. As Supervisor Provenza said, this evening I'm speaking as both a member of the Disaster Prep Subcommittee of the County Aging Commission, as well as Vice Chair of the YOLO County In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. And as Elaine said, Winters' experiences directly informed the subcommittee's recommendations. So in this part, I'll give a thumbnail sketch of some of the local challenges, draw on the subcommittee's work for some possible solutions, and then suggest some next steps. And Tracy, if we can go to the next slide, please. Perfect, thanks. Looking at some of these challenges and solutions. So we received inadequate help from PG&E during the public safety power shutoffs, and especially for provision of medically necessary power. As a solution, rather than just waiting on PG&E, Winters could actually take a leadership role in developing a countywide mutual aid network of locations that are available to provide medically necessary power, and could make the new senior center a suitable location for this. So we didn't have a cooling center during recent heat waves. Granted, the COVID-19 pandemic and the community center closure make this tricky, but we could partner with other cities and connect Winters residents with those resources. In the future, again, the new senior center that Dan McGuire and others have been working so hard on could be an option for this. Emergency notifications have received a lot of attention again this summer. YOLO alert notifications have gone out late or failed or were not sent during fires. And the information was sent was siloed within areas that were under evacuation warnings or orders. So the subcommittee recommends that more frequent and timely alerts get sent by the county, and using clear language in multiple modes, as well as using regular testing of the system. The city, though, has an important role available to it that it has not yet filled. So the screenshot on the slide on the right-hand side shows the City of Winters alerts I'm signed up to receive via Everbridge, which is the mass notification system YOLO Alert uses. However, the city does not yet make use of this. And as we've seen during the summer's fires, a recent flood and other instances, people in town want and need to know what is going on so that we can make informed decisions. The city could address this by sending informational alerts saying where the problem is, which areas are under evacuation warning or ordered, and which are not. While sending emails to the Friday update list and posting on social media are appreciated, these are not alerts. So next slide, please, Tracy. Thanks. So some people cannot evacuate themselves in an emergency, and relying on an ad hoc neighbors helping neighbors model just isn't adequate. As I understand it, the county's plan is to send YOLO bus vehicles to a rally point in the city, should we need to evacuate the city or large portions of it. However, there is no county nor city plan to get people out of or from their homes or apartments to the rally point. To address this, the city could beef up its special needs alert program or SNAP list of people who need help in emergencies, and either form its own community emergency response team or partner with a neighboring jurisdiction that has a CERT, plus coordinate with the county. I cannot overstate how important it is that we address this piece of the puzzle. Interjurisdictional emergency communication and planning has some gaps. The subcommittee recommends that OES staff attend pertinent city-county 2x2 meetings. The city could express interest in this as well. The Greater Winters area reaches beyond city limits to people in rural portions of 3 counties, and there's recognition that we need to increase communication. So there's a nascent project spearheaded by Supervisor Don Saylor, Mayor Wade Callan, Supervisor John Vasquez in Solano County, emergency personnel and community members to address this. Next slide, please. Thanks. Winters has notably strong community spirit, and part of that we heard of earlier when I believe it was Councilmember Lauren gave an update about the Greater Winters Area Fire Relief Fund. But that community spirit, how we can, the next step would be to become a truly resilient community, and a resilient community fosters a culture of preparedness. So the next steps council can take to achieve that. Council can request a presentation on emergency preparedness from the Winters Senior Commission on Aging. And as mentioned previously, they really hit the ground running on this piece of the project and have some really usable local information. The city can increase residents' knowledge about emergency preparedness by implementing the Train the Trainer program, which includes segments on build and go kits and more. Including the Winters Hispanic Advisory Committee in emergency preparedness and planning will decrease the chance that language will be a barrier to preparedness or response during the course of an emergency. Council can direct staff to bring city use of the alert system as a discussion item at a future council meeting. And council can make emergency preparedness a regular, periodic item on the city council agenda so that we can do planning and not just response. And next slide, please, Tracy. Thanks. So the city of Winters is really well positioned to learn from recent experiences and take a real leadership role in increasing emergency preparedness and evacuation planning and improving emergency response. And really, I think could become a model for regionally and beyond that. So even though our subcommittee's project really focused on vulnerable populations, particularly seniors and people with disabilities, many of the recommendations in our document are applicable to the full community. And I'll add that we should keep in mind that not all disasters start out of town, stay out of town, or come with advance warning. In other words, they're not all wildfires that we can see up in the hills first. And as an example, my apartment building, which is populated entirely by seniors and people with disabilities, has been evacuated twice so far this year due to gas leaks. And next slide, please. Perfect, thank you. So there are resources available to council and staff from the city level all the way on up. And rather than read you the whole list here, I'm going to highlight just a couple of them. Listos California is a brand new state program that started last year that is designed to help communities establish resilience through building a culture of preparedness. They have free resources available and in multiple languages. Again, free resources available. And the Cal OES Office of Access and Functional Needs has expertise and resources available with a focus on seniors, people with disabilities and people with language barriers and financial and transportation barriers to preparedness or evacuating and more. And I have to say, I found Chief Vance Taylor at that office to be a tremendous resource. And so I'm going to hand it back to Elaine and say, next slide, please, to Tracy. And, oh, you know, I'm sorry, there was one other thing. At the bottom of that, there are several recent newspaper articles, including in national media, that focus on the Winters and Vacaville area. And so I'd just like to highlight those. The Christian Science Monitor, LA Times, as well as the local media has done a great job covering the system. All right, now it's really back to Elaine.
Thanks, Kate. Emergency preparedness should always be an ongoing endeavor. After each public safety power shutoff or fire or flood or heat wave, it is crucial to figure out what worked, what didn't work, and make improvements accordingly. It is important not to waste time placing blame, but rather to work together for better outcomes. It is critical to plan ahead, get through a crisis as best the city can, then refine those plans based on shared experiences. Never should we allow ourselves to grow complacent, especially in the face of the recent wildfires, heat waves, and windy days with public safety power shutoffs. Each city has its own unique difficulties, strengths, and vulnerabilities. Winters is a small town with a lot of concerned citizens who are ready to roll up their sleeves and do what is necessary to protect its citizens. The Yolo County Commission on Aging and Adult Services wants to do whatever we can to help in that endeavor. Next slide, please. As Vince Lombardi once said, preparedness is the ultimate confidence builder. Next slide, please. So we are finished with our presentation. These are the members of the Emergency Preparedness Subcommittee, and we'd open it up for questions.
Okay, does anybody on the council have questions for Kate or Elaine?
I'll wait until after public comment.
Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Tracy, do we have any hands up or anybody wanting to comment on this item?
I don't see any hands, and no one has engaged the chat feature, so I don't believe so.
Okay, we will go back to the council. Does the council have any comments or questions? Councilmember New, go ahead.
I just want to say that that was an excellent report, and it shows we have some work to do, but I think that we're capable of doing it, and look forward to the help that we have been offered. Thank you.
Yeah. Tracy, can you unmute Paul Meyer? I think he's wanting to speak.
Oh, sure.
No? Okay. He says no. Okay. All right, we'll move on with council comments then.
I do. First, I wanted to say that I really appreciate your presentation. It's very thorough, it's in-depth, it's revealing of all the work that we need to do. I really appreciate Kate's comment that winners can turn experience into preparedness. We have experience, we have the will, we have the passion and compassion. We need to get a sense of direction on this and make it a value for council. I liked your idea of having the 2x2 plus Dana working together on that. I think that's an excellent resource of a system that we already have in place. I appreciated your resource list, and I wanted to just make mention that earlier in the year, right before COVID, Mayor Cowan and I attended the the Yosemite Policymakers Conference, and Josh Friday, who is the lead on Listos, presented Listos to us. So we are familiar with it, and we know that there are resources to help build community resilience and community safety that are free. I think it's a matter of just time and will to maybe start looking at it. So I just wanted to thank you, and it's a lot to process in one. That is a lot. There's a lot of hours. So it's a priority to me, and I'm sure it's a priority to all of council. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Lauren. I'm gonna add that, thank you very much, Kate and Elaine, for, your work on this and your commitment to these committees and stuff. I know it takes a lot of your time and we appreciate your help with these things. And, also Supervisor Provenza for introducing this topic tonight. And I know we've already begun working on some of these items. As Kate mentioned, Supervisor Saylor is taking the lead on putting a group together that I'm part of, as well as Supervisor Vasquez from Solano County and a few others to work on what we can do to better improve all of these emergency systems. So, and I think we'll hear a little bit more about that from Dana as well as Chief Lopez. So if there isn't any other comments or public comment on this part of this discussion tonight, then we will move on to our fire chief, Brad Lopez.
I actually
first,
see
Kate,
Tina
go
Loudon.
ahead, Kate.
I'm seeing Tina waving her hand and somebody had a comment in the chat section.
Okay. All right, Tina, are you there?
I am here. We're putting together, the commission is putting together the Winter Senior Resource Guide Revision 2020. And I'm just looking through all this and we have nothing about the preparedness. And I was wondering if Kate could put something, send it to the commission and we can approve it and put it in the resource guide because we're trying to get this out.
Oh, that'd be
Possibility, Elaine and Kate?
Sure.
delighted, like thoroughly delighted. Thanks for asking, Tina. That'd be great.
Glad to do it.
I'll let Debbie know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, we'll move on with Fire Chief Brad Lopez. Chief, are you there?
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
We can.
Good, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Brad Lopez, Fire Chief for the Winters Fire Department here. I'm here to report on the events from the LEU Complex fire and the fire department's response to it. On August 18th at 10:15 a.m., the Winters Fire Department was dispatched to a vegetation fire on State Route 128 at the Bull Canyon Loop Trail. One engine, one water tender, including myself, responded to the incident. At 10:28 a.m., engine Grass 26 from Winters was the first to arrive on scene and reported the fire to be approximately 2 acres in size with a rapid rate of spread. They began initiating fire attack with a progressive hose lane of steep terrain with 2 firefighters. A CAL FIRE battalion chief and 1 CAL FIRE engine arrived on scene soon after, where a unified command was formed with CAL FIRE battalion chief 1419 and myself. An evacuation advisory was requested for the Canyon Creek Resort due to the proximity of the fire in this area. Mutual aid resources from Yolo County and Solano County were requested to assist with firefighting efforts. At 11 a.m., the Markley fire was reported at 20 acres and still advancing. Due to several fires within the Lake Napa unit area, resources statewide were at a max drawdown already, and additional resources, both engines and aircraft, were unavailable to the Markley incident. Due to steep terrain and limited suppression resources, the Markley fire grew to approximately 2,500 acres into the evening of August 18th. Meanwhile, the Hennessy fire started on August 17th at approximately 9 a.m., which was located in the Rutherford area of Napa County. The Hennessy fire was reported at 2,700 acres at 7 a.m. on August 18th. In the late evening, at approximately 11:30 of August 18th, the Lake Napa dispatch reported civilians trapped by fire in the area of Rat Canyon Road, just west of the Markley fire. CAL FIRE Chief Battalion 1419 took a couple of engines to see if they could locate the victims. They They soon discovered 2 bodies of a male and female severely burned but still alive and were able to be rescued. Evening weather produced significant down canyon winds in excess of 25 miles an hour through State Route 128 out of the west. At approximately midnight, reports of the Hennessy fire were advancing over Blue Ridge into Mixed Canyon along Pleasance Valley Road. CAL FIRE Battalion Chief 1419 and myself responded out to Pleasance Valley Road and discovered the fire had already advanced into the area. The fire was on the south side of Pewter Creek in Solano County. Due to the rapid advancement of the fire, first responders were tasked with providing for life safety and rescue only. At approximately 4 a.m. on August 19th, it was noted the fire had jumped on the north side of State Route 128, west of Placitas Road. Dispatch was notified to initiate evacuations for Placitas Road west through Golden Bear Estates as the fire was advancing to the easterly direction. Fire engines were positioned throughout Placitas Road, Pleasance View Road, and Golden Bear Estates subdivisions for structure protection and evacuations into the morning hours. In summary, the LNU Lightning Complex has been active for 28 days, burned over 363,000 acres, and is 97% contained. It's damaged 232 structures, destroyed 1,491, caused 5 injuries and 5 fatalities. It is now the 4th largest fire in the history of California, but more notably, the 2020 fire season has been record-breaking. And not only the total amount of acres burned at just over 3 million, but also 6 of the top 20 largest fires in California history have occurred this year. To close, I'd like to acknowledge my staff, 15 firefighters, 12 of whom are volunteers, responded to fight the Markley and LNU complex fire for 4 days straight. I'd also like to acknowledge Interim City Manager Shelley Gumby and Chief Miller for their assistance. Today, Winters firefighters have been deployed on the Creek Fire in Fresno County since September 6th, and we have planned crew rotation for tomorrow morning to relieve those crews. End of report.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Anybody on the council have any questions or comments for Chief Lopez? If not, Tracy, is there any public comment or questions for Chief Lopez?
I don't see anything. We do have a comment from Monty Liss stating as a community member he supports the culture of preparedness.
Okay. All right, if there's no other questions or comments for the chief, then we'll move on to the 3rd section of this presentation, which will be an update by Dana Carey, the Yolo County Office of Emergency Services Manager, regarding emergency notification and preparedness. Dana, are you there?
Thank you for having me, inviting me, Councilmember in here. So I do not have a county PowerPoint like Elaine. Instead, I'm going to do this a little old school because I think it's very efficient to get a point across if we can just see my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and do some sharing here. You should all see kind of the agenda for the Winters City Council. Yes, am I sharing your screen level? Perfect. All right. So I thought it would be really interesting to go through some of the things that we already know and understand in alert warning as a Zoom space. It's not simply one system. It's not simply digital. A lot of it is in person as well, and all of that stuff has to play together. So one of the things that we actually are constantly trying to get across or get through is this kind of timeline that I'm showing you here. Because from the time that we detect something, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's water, fire, shaking of the ground, we actually have a delay time and somebody that's authorized to order and notification doing so. So we have direct control over this yellow box. We can get it down as low as possible. From the time the warning is issued, there's a lag time from when people actually receive it. Now our mass notification system, sometimes it's most times very, very quickly. Obviously, we know that the voice calls fail during the fire. So that is a challenge on a system like that. Sirens, either two of them, or if you're too far away, you don't. So this diffusion time is also a consideration. And then from the time the person gets it, they have to make the decision to react and how fast they react. Are they going to stay at their home and try to collect their valuables, or are they ready to just walk out the door and they have their plan ready to go? So this green section is what the end user, if you will, or resident, has direct control over themselves by doing some of the things we've been talking about tonight, having their plan ready, making sure that they can walk right out the door, having those kits ready to go. Because sometimes you don't get as much warning into your life, just kind of depending on what's going on. So this is our alert warning annex. It does also go into the way that we have to actually word our warnings. This is all based on social science and everything. A huge study was done for about 2 years by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and they came up with the fact that shorter messages have to have a certain order for them to be kind of received and well on the user end and understood, and longer messages have to actually have a specific order. So we've tried to take a lot of this social science and pre-program up as much of it as possible to help out our dispatchers who are typically the alert senders. My office is a backup to them, but usually fire alarm or radio is great with the dispatch agency to ask for these alerts to be launched. So I'm going to skim through this report online just to kind of show you the structure here of our alert notification system. We own a system made by a company called Everbridge, and we have 4 different portals. One of them is a joint portal between Sacramento, Placer, and Gilbert. That's what we alert the citizens about. The employee portals are used every day for different things, like certain rescue call-outs, activations of the bomb squad, all kinds of things. So it's all one system. So the way that we need every person to get into that system is by going to YOLO-alert.org. And honestly, if you type in Sacramento-alert, Placer-alert, you're going to get to the same exact page, because we all 3 own the exact same system. So that's a real benefit to us when we talk about stuff like cross-jurisdictional notification. It's something that other towns don't have, and we can't even do it on the Solano side, even though Solano County also owns Everbridge. But the system's security parameters do not actually make it possible for the vendor to join Solano's system with ours. And ours is 6 years old, and Solano just bought theirs 2 years ago. So that is kind of a downside for us. I would love to be going with Solano the same way I am in Sacramento, and I have both borders. It would be beautiful. But if you're on here, you can sign up for a new account. I'm going to show you kind of a test account that I have here, because I want to show you guys some things in there that are best practices. So I'm going to sign in with some credentials I've already set up. But even if you are signing up, you still have, I'm going to show you guys all the same things that you would have when you're signing up. So your profile has things about you. So your name, what email you're using, you can have multiple emails in here. You can have multiple cell phones, multiple business phones. I would encourage everybody to not put the same number in multiple fields. So like this phone number here, I don't paste it down here in this secondary cell, or the secondary phone, because the system will recognize the phone number and it's still only going to call it once. So even if you paste it in your 5 times, you're not going to get 5 calls. So I encourage everybody to take in all these fields to give us as much information as possible. So give us where your desk phone is, what your home phone is, what your cell phone is. Try to refrain from putting loved one, like spouses, cell phones in your profile. I get a lot of calls from people going, I don't know why I'm getting this text message. And when I do some digging, I find out that their phone is on their wife or husband's account. Those are very, very hard for us to find, the way the data is in the systems. If you are hard of hearing, you can put your CCY device in here. And you can put any other phone number that you have if you didn't give them enough fields to go ahead with the first time. So it's really good to fill all of that out so that we have as many ways to contact you as possible. When you sign up, you can send yourself a text notification right upon sign up. And that way you can see it come through to your devices and what it will look like. When you're picking your locations in the system, you definitely are going to be putting in addresses. And so I can put in new address here. And I want to show you what happens. You need to click verify this address and really find it on the map. So this address is pretty easy to find because it's right here on Gibson Road. So the map actually found it and it was effective. But my mother's address in Dunnigan, actually this is what we call geolocation. Her address geolocates all the way up by the casino for some reason. And that's because of Google Maps, because that is the underlying infrastructure of this system. So don't just type in the address and assume it's good. Really dig in here. You can actually scroll in, you can move that dot and really place it right on top of your house so that you get that correct. You see a lot of people putting in PO boxes, especially in the unincorporated areas. That is not going to geolocate to the roof of your house, which means you're not going to get notification for your house. So this is a really important step to do, is to actually get in there, add your addresses. I always encourage people to add multiples if they're interested in getting alerts for other areas that aren't their primary residence. We have some people enter the school that their kid goes to, or they St. John's Retirement Village if they have a loved one there. So you can sign up for as many addresses as you want, it doesn't matter. And then when I'm also in here, I can actually go back, sign up for subscriptions. So if you're getting a lot of stuff, you may go in here and check and see if any of these other boxes from these other counties are checkmarked. Because you might accidentally sign up to get subscriptions from them, not all of Yolo County. And some jurisdictions have many. The City of West Sacramento has 9 subscriptions. So these are things that independent cities or unincorporated areas, like here in Dunnigan and Parkford, and fire chiefs actually use these to communicate with their population. They'll actually send meeting notices, things like that. So you can directly control your subscription. You never can opt out of emergency notifications. That's what we're allowed to do. You can sign up for everyone in the whole county if you want. Then you're going to have all your subscriptions. So that's step one, is making sure the end user correctly creates their profile and puts everything on it. Now, if I flip to being a sender, now I'm not logged in anymore as a resident. Now it's me as an alert sender. If you look at this map, they're really hard to see all these little teeny tiny green dots, but they're all over the United States. This is our alert system. So people in Dallas have signed up to get alerts for something in Yolo County. So that's always kind of impressive to me. But if I kind of zoom in here a little bit more closer to us, you'll start seeing the kind of data streams that we have in here. So every red dot that we see is a conglomeration of hundreds and hundreds of reverse 911 numbers. Every blue dot is white pages data. Yellow dots are yellow pages data, and neon green dots happen to be citizen opt-ins. So those are people who signed up. And when I'm zoomed out this far, every dot means hundreds and hundreds of numbers. If I start getting down to street level, you can see how many people we get in the system. And sooner or later, I want some purple dots on there. So the new Senate bill came out last year that allows me to get all the data from utility companies now, PG&E, and add it to the alert. So I'll be getting, as soon as they have a way to share that, we'll be getting that data as well. So usually when a responder is on their radio and they're asking for a notification to be sent, they're going back and forth over a radio channel with a dispatcher who's sitting in here trying to figure out where the the responder wants that to be sent. So they may have to come in here and start asking for street names and zoom in and zoom out to effectively draw the shape that the fire or law person wants to use for that specific notification. Then they have to come in here and they have to type out a subject. They have to go through what the body of the message is going to be. They should record it. They will most likely have to add specific individuals. And then they might even have to go in here and edit from regional emergency alert, because we have to have a default, and put the word YOLO. We do have a default phone number. Those are all the things the dispatcher is doing with our field responders just to get an alert out. You can see that I'm kind of breezing through it really, really fast, but it is a time-consuming process. So what we've tried to do for our evacuation and shelter-in-place notifications is we actually give those to a dispatcher in pre-programmed order. So he or she just has to come in here with a little pencil, and the message is completely pre-populated. So they may ask the responder, is this an advisory or a mandatory order? And if the responder says it's an advisory, they delete a couple of words. They may ask, are we using Grant Avenue or Railroad Avenue? The responder can tell them what they want the evacuation route to be. And so by the time they get through editing these parrots, everything is pre-programmed, including the map shape that they're supposed to use and the individuals, like my Google phone is listed on every single one of the 33 templates. And you can see YOLO alert system is pre-populated, everything's pre-done. So they can just actually click this little now button, and if I were to click the send button, everybody in Zone 59 would get this lovely alert tonight. So we're not going to do that. But we try to make that as fast as possible for the dispatchers so that they are not wasting time going back and forth on what the message needs to read, understanding the social science, and define the white paper on the order that the information needs to be on, all of those good things. And we try to coordinate all of that programming with the 91 evacuation zones that I know I've kind of come out to Winters twice last year to talk about physically before we all got locked down. And we'll be going out physically again pretty much every year once we are all released. But evacuate.yellowcounty.org has the 91 zones on here. You can type in an address and find what zone you're in. You can click on the zone to see what zone number it is, what its prioritized evacuation routes are. And we're going to keep enhancing this application because we now have layers for all the gas stations, all the rally points. And we're working on marrying up the county's road center line file with the evacuation routes, so you put on your zone where roads actually illuminating red for you. So we're constantly working on enhancements for these things. We tend to publish applications a lot in Yolo County because I'm a very visual person. I like to see what everybody's talking about. So even during PSPS season, we have the PSPS map, psps.yellowcounty.org. And so this map will actually show you, if I put layers on here, all of the historical shutoffs that have ever happened in Yolo County since the inception of PSPS. You can see where things have started to get shut off or where they've been shut off previously. And what we do with this application during an active one is we turn all of these layers off and only have the newest shape on there of what we're anticipating to be shut off. These shapes are things that we can use in YOLO Alert to send backup notifications, which we do after PG&E sends theirs, because sometimes we have numbers PG&E doesn't have. So we'll actually be using those shapes in Everbridge similarly to how we use the evacuation parameters. Pretty much if it's a shape in a GIS system, I can put it in Everbridge and I can use it. So when I'm on the map here, we do have the 91 evacuation shapes in the shape library pre-programmed and ready to go right here. But we also have other shapes within Yolo County, like say if I needed to do just the city of Winters and not all of Zone 59, so they don't marry up exactly. Usually our cities get evacuation zones married up to the area of influence, not the city boundary. So there's all kinds of things. We have all Yolo County housing, and here's the past PSPS shapes. so that we could actually load those and send a notification. They look a lot like the PSPS map. These are all things that we do. We'll also give these shapes to Health and Human Services Department, and they can overlay it over, like the group that Kate is with Home Supportive Services. They know they take over their data and see how many dots of people they directly serve fall within the shape that they can follow up with them. So it's really kind of a partner effort between all of the county departments. Usually, emergency management has access to the shapes and the boundaries from different providers, and then we ship them off internally in our GIS system, which kind of looks like this. And those maps are used by all kinds of county departments. We can even use them when we're working with partners like CAL FIRE. One question that I get every year from CAL FIRE when we evacuate something is how many people are in there. So I can actually come in there very quickly and tell them that there's 233 address points in this shape, and I can add shapes on the slide to see who all is in them as well. So we create a lot of tools to make our lives easier. I definitely hope that everybody listening is going to rush out and make a little of their account. You can also go to ready.gov. There's a lot of really good resources on ready.gov for people. There's pandemic resources. This month is happens to be National Preparedness Month, but there's even information on wildfires on here. And then if you're looking for a specific population, you can type in word, and a lot of times it'll actually get straight to the page that deals with that population. There's my other favorite one is the financial preparedness section. Talks about why you should have cash, where to put important documents, what those documents should be. If you have to grab them and go, so that you have things like insurance policies that you will be asked for those things, and you don't need them. If you have the time to grab them, if they're in your kit right at the store, then they're easy to grab. So those are all kind of helpful hints that you can get from ready.gov. And then I will put a plug in for the California Shakeout just coming up on 10/15. At 10/15, you guys will all get another alert from our system, because for the last 3 years on California Great Shakeout Day, we test the entire system. So we test every single one of those colored dots between all 3 counties at exactly the same time. It's a stress test to see if we can shut the system down, because we have so much data in it. We want to make sure that their manufacturer and all of their, they call them P1 lines and things, can handle that inflow in a good enough time. So we do that pretty much every year. You'll be getting it in October 15th at 10:15 this year. So that's just a couple of highlights without drowning on and taking up the whole meeting that I wanted to share with you guys. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dana. Does council have any questions for Dana?
To the mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Dana. Thank you for that presentation. That was very informative. Some of the questions that have come up are, Solano County, I've heard, it's an Everbridge system, but it's Nixle. So what is the difference between that and what we have?
So Nixle used to be a free system when it was owned by Nixle that a lot of our state agencies got free access to originally. Everbridge bought Nixle about 4 years ago. So now, if you own Everbridge and you have their community engagement package, you will launch Nixle at the same time you launch the platform I showed you, which is called the Mass Notification Platform. So they're just different pieces of software, all owned by the same company. So for us to purchase the community engagement package, it would triple the cost of what we pay for just the Mass Notification Operator package. And then there's another one called Commander, and that would be 5 times the price. So trust me, they try to close on it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council questions right now? If not, I believe Supervisor Saylor has his hand up. Tracy?
Yes?
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
Thank you very much. Well, I really appreciated and focused on the conversation that's happened so far this evening. Thank you to council for taking the time to delve into these matters. I think that it's important, and the critical nature of these topics has been driven home to us in the past month or so. And it seems like it's happened, of course, every year for the past 6 or 7. The night that this fire hit us this time through was Shelley's first night as she had met. In fact, I think it's probably going to be a kind of a jinx every time the council meets. You wonder what's going to happen after the meeting's over. So Shelley's very first night as their city manager, she had a very long night. I think she rose to the occasion along with Chief Miller and Chief Lopez. And the people who were out on the fire line that night were, I just thank every one of them for saving lives, because that was something. So this alert system that Dana just described is highly technical, highly sophisticated, does a lot of things, does them very well. Dana herself is a go-to person throughout Yolo County for emergency alerts and emergency operations, and she's recognized statewide for the work that she does. And her knowledge and understanding of the technical capacities of all these systems and how they work in the real world is unsurpassed. I think what happens when we have a situation like we've had over the last month is that we don't have all the time in the world, and we don't have not everybody knows what zone they're in, or some of them didn't go to that meeting where they were told they should sign up for the alert, and they're not. And if we don't use the tools, then the tools are not going to work. And we've also found that there were some really significant end stage failures where the voice alert didn't reach people because of a variety of things. And so Dana has assessed that, did a very quick a very quick assessment of the performance of the alert system, identified the problem, and did another test very early on. And what we really appreciated, and that was very helpful. That test might not have happened until the great shakeout coming up in October, but for the responsiveness of the folks. One of the things I really appreciated about the Winters community over and over is how the folks would step up when there's a need. So the Greater Winters Relief Fund is just incredible, and I appreciate everybody who's worked to make that happen, everyone who's donated. In addition, there has been an incredible amount of very sophisticated analysis and gathering of comments of the real world experiences of the Greater Winters community in this tragedy that took place in the middle of August. And that information is valuable. We need to build on what we've learned. So Wade and John Vasquez, Kate Laddish and Sandra Ahmad and Sarah Johnson and Chief Miller and Chief Lopez and Dana and I have been having conversations about how to best tap into that knowledge, that personal experience of the real world that people had, and make our system respond to our community needs, in addition to making sure that the system works from a technical perspective. So that's a process that we're right in the middle of. I like the recommendations that have come from Elaine and Jim and Kate and their team. And Wally Pierce was part of that as well. So I like that's a framework for us. I really am in awe of the networking that's happened at the community level. We have to have redundant systems of alert because not everybody responds to a text or knows how to program their computer to receive a zone thing. We need to be able to tell people when there's something next door to them that's not necessarily going to have them evacuate, but when we need to know a little bit about it. You can use our tools, I think, a little more effectively. We're hearing from community members. We're going to tap that knowledge. I'm sorry to go on for so long, but I want the folks who experienced this most recent tragedy and have shared their stories, their personal perspectives and experiences with us. I want them to know that we're paying attention to that and we will make the systems work for them rather than make them have to figure out how to make the system work. So thank you for that opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Supervisor Saylor. Tracy, do we have any more public comment? Anybody else with their hand up?
No, no other hands up.
Mayor, I would like to be recognized.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Lauren.
You know, this has been just a defining moment. I think for California, for Yolo County, Solano, Napa, these fires this has been a game changer. And although I don't have any authority in the larger system, and I can see that the county and Dana is doing everything they can, and this presentation definitely demonstrates that, I think that when you kind of go down a little bit smaller to the city of Winters, I am very moved to use the resources that we have, and we have put together a very powerful group of Winters Senior Commission on Aging. We worked very hard for those interviews and to select those people. And so if they're working on emergency information, I would like to request a presentation from the Winters Senior Commission on Aging and have that inform, educate, and help us grow in our responses to emergencies. Thank you.
Yeah, we can definitely touch base with them and have them
present
at your council meeting. That would be a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment or council comment? Kate Laddish.
Thank you, Mayor Cowan. And Dana, thank you so much for that presentation. And I just wanted to follow up with Councilmember Lauren's comment and request. I believe that Tina Loudon can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the Winters Commission has finished their project and have something. They might be ready to go.
Ready.
Tina, though, can tell me if I'm wrong.
I'm sorry, I was reading the resource guide. Multitask.
Tina, if you're ready, if the Commission on Aging is ready, we want to hear you. We also would really like you to add ready.gov that Dana presented. Wow, that was a great website. But yeah.
It was. And in fact, Jerry just walked by, he's president of the Winters Senior Foundation. And I mentioned to him that the Winters Senior Foundation should also put that information out there too. They have a really extensive email address. So I think we should talk to him also, or talk to the executive board, which I am not a member of. Bob Bell, you're over there, you're a member. I'm going to put you on the spot. We are, the commission is working on a lot of stuff, and I just put a note, so I'll talk to Debbie. She's in Minnesota right now with her mom. So I'll be mentioning this to her.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Anybody else have comment tonight? Tracy, is there any other hands up? Or?
I don't see any.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Dana, for all the valuable information you've shared. And then also, for people that can pull up the chat, I believe Dana has some links on there for some videos and some other resources for getting more information. And maybe we can get those posted on our website as well. Okay, if there's no further comment on this item, we're going to move on to our discussion items. And the first one we have tonight is a city projects overview. And this is part of our overall transition plan. And I believe this will be presented by former city manager, John Dunleavy. Are you there, John?
I am here. Really good presentations. I thought Dana's was right on. Mayor and Council, tonight what I'd like to do is maybe just go over some information. There's a lot of information that I've included in the agenda report, but I'd like to maybe just kind of walk the council through some of the 8 key areas and many of the things that I've been doing to hopefully prepare for a good transition. Well, 112 applicants, and if Bobby Peckham has boiled everything down to a dozen or so people at this point, it's really good. My overall focus on an overall transition plan has been to try and memorialize some information. After 19 years, I've got a lot of files and computer files and emails and all that fun stuff that have been literally on various computer drives. But tonight what I want to do is maybe walk the council through some of the key areas and some thoughts that I have. And the council already knows about a lot of this stuff, but I'd like to have an opportunity maybe to go over it. One of the key emphasis that we've had over the past couple of years has been the idea of succession planning. As Dan and Carol and me and Nancy and others left the organization, one of the things we've tried to do is create a retention of institutional knowledge, the ability for some seamless transition in some areas, data, and all the historical information. On the right side are really four key things that I really want to stress with the council that are in place that need to be followed through, and they're actually in the course of implementation right now. The first has to do with NeoGov. It's a human resources system which will actually log in all of our previous information into one source. So people need to look on historical things regarding human resources, employment, etc. It's going to be in one location. OpenGov is a budget program, and it is something that probably the most important asset that the city has over the past couple of years has been Shelley Govee's management of our financial management. And the OpenGov program is something that Shelley and I have looked into that is really going to be a big download. To understand the fiscal forecasting models, how the city finances actually work, is absolutely critical for people moving forward. So that is in place. And the implementation of EnerGov, which is both a planning and building permitting system. If you're going to hold Gene's feet to the fire on anything, it's going to be on the idea that this system has to be implemented. Over the years, we had the great argument over things like the address files for the city. EnerGov is a way to take so much of the planning information, the building information. We do have historical data on that. It's integrated and it becomes literally the city file system. And then finally is our integration into the Microsoft file. The ability for sharing and online access to information is very important. Tracy, why don't you go to the next slide? I just like good infrastructure. One of the things that the city is absolutely going to be facing moving forward will be our infrastructure. And one of my key recommendations that I put in the report is the importance of the maintenance of our management systems. The information that Alan Mitchell has, Ponticello Enterprises, one of the last things that I really pushed before I left was the extension of the Ponticello agreement. They have now been the city engineer for 22 years, and they manage quite a bit of information regarding all of our infrastructure assets in the city: streets, sewer, water, everything that we did with the various infrastructure bonds. The importance of capital planning is critical, simply because moving forward, maintaining the streets, taking the information that Alan has, information that Eric has, and dealing with that. And then finally, the regulatory requirements. There are basically 6 key things that I'm recommending the city really needs to keep an eye on. First is all of our street maintenance. Right now, the city invests really 2 sources of money. One is the SB1 gas tax money. The second is our TDA funds on street maintenance. And when we talk about streets, we're talking about everything from the roadways to the sidewalks to all the ADA implementation, all of that. Storm drainage is going to become an absolutely huge issue for us. Over the years, Winters has benefited by being a less populated community. Guess what? They've taken away all of those things from the city. It doesn't matter, big or small, you better be ready to deal with storm drainage and the idea of having an NPDES permit. Carol was working on it, she was going out the door, but get ready. The city does not have a single funding source for storm drainage. If the city tries to hook it on the waste, our sewer charges, you will have Howard journalists coming down all over the city. So it will become a major infrastructure issue. The wastewater influent screen phase 2 project, critical. We got the intake in last year, and now it's ready for the second phase. That's about $1 million project, but it really needs to happen because at the end of the day, it will be a very important element. Wastewater expansion, I put that on the list simply that you need to know that I included in the report that you are currently you're seeing the absorption of almost all of our residential capacity. And when you look at the build out of Winters Highlands, the other subdivisions, Walnut 10, the screen project's going to come online, you will find that much of what the capacity that we have is going to be eaten up. The regional board will not allow you to do work if you do not have an expansion plan. So that's something definitely on the list. Tertiary treatment is also important. Realize when you take Chrome 6, NPDES, the people who really rule the world right now are all the leaching water quality control board folks. And the idea of Winters moving up to tertiary treatment maybe sooner than later. In the case of Winters, we know that 2 years ago when the council adopted the wastewater treatment facility master plan, we know that tertiary treatment alone, not hardly adding any capacity, is about a $16 million to $18 million project. And then finally is the idea of broadband. All of the new subdivisions are all getting fiber. WAVE has been implementing some things throughout the city, but if you live in the core area of the city or any of the older subdivisions, you don't have that. And one of the things I would suggest is that exploring something that when Cecilia Curry was mayor, she and I really worked on the concept of doing broadband citywide. And that may be something, especially given Bay Area influence. Tracy, next slide. Obviously, planning and community development are huge issues. They provide long-range vision, infrastructure planning, everything infrastructure goes back to the idea of having a plan. It also gets the idea of sustainability, diversity, allows the city to try and project some things out as far as our financial ability. It provides economic development, and most importantly, it builds business sustainability. When we talk about sustainability, tonight, while we had presentations saying, hey, the city needs to do this, the city should do that, you hear that with the pool. Hey, we want to have more opening for the pool for people. All of that costs money, and that costs a lot of money. And the idea of the city launching a lot of these things gets to the availability of services, the vitality of our business community, any potential, and the idea of economic growth. There are 4 key projects, or 4 key things that I've included in the report. One is North Area planning, and there's a measure on the ballot. And quite frankly, the city can't afford that. The city does not have the money for it. Really what the ballot measure is a very risky idea of doing a general plan rewrite, which is really a crapshoot, because you go out and do the North Area planning, and quite frankly, if the voters vote it down, guess what? You're done. It's very expensive. It's about $1.5 million to $2 million project. The upcoming housing element, very important project. The good news on the housing element is you've got an excellent team, and I think as they do the calculations on things, it'll be very critical. You've got the SB2 and the state COG grants, which is going to help with some of the planning. The North Area, we call it the city limits specific plan, is out there. So I would continue with those projects. And then finally, the one wild card, started working on this a little bit right before I left, but something I'd like to plant with the council is looking at the idea of cannabis. 5 years ago, when everything was legalized, it was one deal. Now, it's something that, quite frankly, it's kind of gotten out of the Wild West phase, and it is something that, from either a manufacturing standpoint or some type of retail sales standpoint, probably could avoid converters. And one of the things that we know is that it brings in a little bit of money. Next slide, please. Some things that I left in there regarding personnel and staffing. There's some things that the city basically needs to really look at. There's some basic levels of staffing that I think are important: overall functionality and the safety regarding the community. Police department, the balancing of the budget this year was based on the idea of eliminating 2 police officer positions. Those positions absolutely have to come back. One of the things that was deferred in the budget this year had to do with the transition of the public works superintendent into a department director position. That was somebody taking them for the team, and I will share that I think that's something that needs to be followed through, especially to garner some retention. The city does need a city planner position. Dave Joneswell on a part-time basis does a very good job, but the reality is that Dave is one really good golf membership away from probably leaving. And then finally, something that Crystal Zaragoza, the city's human resources manager, knows is that the city needs to focus on professional development. Cultivation of the city employees is absolutely critical, and there's going to be a lot of new people there. And the one thing that the council and the city can't let up on is the development of the staff, and because there's going to be a lot more responsibilities. Next slide. In public safety, the one thing we know about Winters that draws people is that Winters is one of the safest communities around. From this, the city definitely needs to, we've been splitting the community services officer position as the CSO and a detective. And one of the things that we do know is that the city does need a full-time detective. And nothing came across stronger as last year. Officer David Gonzalez has been the detective, and on 3 cases, he got a 95-year conviction of somebody who was raping young girls in Winters, and he solved 2 other major crimes. The idea that Winters is not investigating crimes, or at least doing it based on the officer just following up when he can, doesn't work. The city also needs to look at police command. There's a lot of other things that the chief could be working on to advance public safety in Winters, and we took a police command position out of the budget that needs to come in. Full-time support for the fire department with the advent of the new records management system, they need that, and then inevitably fire staffing. Right now, you have the chief and 4 personnel that needs to be expanded. Next slide. I put economic development in. What caused so much of the conflagration and what we've had to deal with over the past 2 years was the Economic Development Advisory Report. It's a good report. It talks about jobs and vitality. Right now, as much as anything, it's something that needs to absolutely happen in Winters. The Economic Advisory Report is a good report. It talks about things. And hopefully, before people would necessarily go to the ballot in November, they might read that and look at the idea of trying to work progressively to build the economics of the city. Next slide. Pension policy. Really 3 things I've put in here. One is continue the policies that we have right now. The annual prepayments. One of the things that Shelley and I have talked about, and I read with them, is the idea of looking at some type of a pension obligation bonds. The reality is that PERS is going to just get rocked with the discount rate as far as where their investments go. Pension obligation bonds may be a way for the city to completely knock out the expected increases over the next couple of years. It would save the city a considerable amount of money also. And then finally, PEPRA. PEPRA, I think right now we have either 7 or 9 different retirement plans. 2 of them are pretty expensive, but I know that 7 of them are all affordable for the city to continue paying without having any unfunded liabilities. And the city's been on a very strong course as far as pension goes. It's something that needs to continue. And last slide. And then finally, the biggies. The one thing that the council needs to be aware of, and one of the things that I will tell you that I am committed to continue to helping the city with. The first one has to do with Hexaville and that is not going away. It's sitting out there, and it is the darkest cloud sitting over Winters. The idea of somewhere between a $30 and $40 million water processing system will absolutely triple the city. And if the city doesn't have at least some type of horizon for some development to come in and help, it's going to be the biggie. We also have the former landfill. This is something that right now, luckily, Carol, I think, structured everything really nice. I know that Christine's going to be able to do it. Kurt Vlasic is working on this with Wallace and Poole. But you're staring down almost $1 million to $1.5 million project to put a new cap in the former landfill. That permit, the one thing I recommend is that the city has to continue to really hold its own with the Regional Water Quality Control Board, keep the groundwater monitoring programs that we have going out there, and be done with it. I put green in the street and the NPDES stuff. and storm drainage. Those, I sincerely believe those will be the largest items that the city is going to have to deal with forward. They are a big deal. Clean water, all the regulations coming out of the State Water Resources, the Regional Quality Control Board, are not going to be friendly to winters on those. You can absolutely be guaranteed that getting the green waste out of the street is going to happen. The NPDES permit, if Christine hasn't gotten the information, she's going to be getting it. Just in conclusion, one of the things that I'm prepping for the council, I put together, I worked with the staff on the entire projects list. That's almost 22 pages that's included in the packet. I've gone through to organize what I hope is going to be a treasure trove for the next city manager. It's something that I plan to turn over to both Shelley and to Tracy, and in so many ways, working to have information, data, and everything, so that when the next city manager steps in, they're going to have that information at their fingertips. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions from anybody.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Is there any council questions or concerns for John on this massive amount of information we've received in this packet on this topic? Anybody?
Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
This is Harold Anderson, speaking of John. One wild card, as you call it, for bringing in income with cannabis. I just have a great deal of difficulty wrapping my arms around that particular proposition. There's plenty of work to be done. It can't be done. Doesn't mean it should be selling commercial marijuana.
Yeah, you know what, Harold, I don't take that lightly. The one thing about cannabis that we know is there's probably one of the most regulated industries out there right now. And it's also one where Yolo County has quite a bit of it going on. Yolo County is probably one of the most progressive counties when it comes to cannabis. And the ability for us to, the reality is from an agricultural standpoint, we actually get very little economic return from what goes on around us. Winters really, Mariani is a very large company, but the reality is they don't provide any sales tax, and they aren't even one of the top property tax payers in the city. But in Yolo County, especially Western Yolo County, there's a lot of cannabis, and it's literally within our doorsteps. As you go literally up Road 89, there's very large groves there. As you go to KK Valley, there's a lot going there. If you go 4 miles out of town, it's right there. And the ability to maybe tap into that within a very responsible way is something that I don't think the city can just not consider.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment on the cannabis. And in the background, I heard you loud and clear on pension obligation bond. I think that, we're burying our head in the sand if we're not looking at pension obligation and what's happening with the market and how that's going to affect us in the long term. So I think that's a conversation that we need to continue to have regularly. But I wanted to just speak about cannabis. I was able to tour a facility in Yolo County that's highly regulated. Talk about track and trace. The county of Yolo does a great job on track and trace, but so there's the grow, but they there's no way to sell that grow product in Yolo County, so it's sold to the Bay Area, so they get all the tax benefits there. So it's grown here, regulated here, sold for manufacturing in another county, and then becomes a product for sale in the city of Davis and other cities. So we're losing. We're using our water and our greater area Yolo County land, and we're creating a product that we're not getting any financial benefit from. What I wanted to mention was that Winters could sustain possibly one dispensary. Winters could, if we went down that path, we could look at what all the benefits are, what we would have to do to explore that path, and we could look at something like having a request for proposal for something like a dispensary, but also include manufacturing and distribution, and have many different, so somebody that would come to Winters would also have to bring 5 or 6 businesses, and so that there's like true economic benefits. I also just wanted to mention that I was able to get the cannabis tax plan from the city of Davis, and their tax plan allows them to give an enormous amount of money to Yolo Crisis Nursery, to youth development, to rural community investment, to fire, to No Man's Land Fire, which is basically funding for fire services, for a levy project, general fund support, and a reserve. So those are Davis's priorities. They wouldn't be our priorities. There's, I think we have to look at everything, and there are definite benefits to looking at something like cannabis.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Lauren. Anybody else on the council have comment? Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to John for all your work putting this together. Yeah, this is a really good outline of all the things that the council, as well as the incoming city manager, we're all going to have to deal with this in the near future. Some very big projects here. Every one of the things that you talked about tonight are key to the ongoing successes of Winters. And I thank you for your time and outlining all of it, and just putting it in this little presentation. It's amazing. All we need is someone to get us maybe $100 million, and we can take care of all of it. But if that was that easy, we'd be done. But it's easy. We're going to have to come up with creative solutions to address these things. So we have a lot of work cut out ahead of us.
Yeah. One of the things about overall sustainability for Winters, when we look at the economic vitality of the city and all the things that the city needs to do moving forward, at some point there needs to be the reality that there are people that living in Winters that really don't have the benefits because we haven't expanded from an economic standpoint. The seniors and poor pay the highest prices for food because they can't go out of town. That's a huge issue. The fact that we don't have the business to business is a huge issue. But one of the things I've tried to put together, in the entire transition plan, I've got files that link on everything: general plan information, economic advisory stuff, data. The next city manager has to be really nice to Shelley, because there are these little blue folders that Shelley is going to give to the next city manager and say, here, it's all the information about all the data on our businesses. So Anyway, I can tell you that I still need to organize it on my, a gift that I'm going to give to the next city manager is a 5 terabyte external drive that has everything. And actually, I'm going to give it to Shelley, and Shelley can give it to the next manager. So anyway, any other questions on any of this stuff?
I just have a comment. I also wanted to echo what Mayor Pro Tem Bill said, that this is an amazing amount of work, and it is a heavy lift to see all this in black and white and go, we have a lot of work to do. But I just wanted to thank you for always keeping track of all of this for the city of Winters and keeping it updated and knowing, you know, where everything is all the time. And just really appreciate your service to the community. Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you. Tracy, is there any public comment out there? Does anybody got their hand raised?
Yes, we have a couple folks here. Let's see. Lost him to unmute. Okay, Kate Laddish is one of them.
Okay, go ahead, Kate.
Tracy, thank you, Mayor Cowan. Kate Laddish, 400 Morgan Street, number 21. And first of all, thank you, John, for beaming in from Auburn tonight, I imagine, for this and this really comprehensive list. I appreciated, oh gosh, probably close to a year ago when you invited me to sit down and kind of go over some of the city projects. It's a tremendous list, and so thank you for giving an overview of it. I'm just going to hit a couple of them. And so one is I saw on page 85 of the packet that the fire prevention piece includes conducting a community risk analysis to identify opportunities for minimizing risk, promote fire prevention education, providing for a safe, sustainable economy. And so if there's a way to tie in with some of the first three topics of the evening into that, I'd certainly be interested in hearing about that. And then the other relates to housing. And so there's really been a lot of discussion, for example, about the housing element. If I remember right, the housing element is due to the state no later than January of 2021, which is coming up surprisingly soon. And I think earlier this summer I'd expressed surprise that there was just slated to be one option for public input in a virtual setting about the housing element. And I think that was going to be in October or September, or pardon me, August or September. And so we're halfway through September and I haven't heard anything about it. And I'd certainly be eager to learn more. I'd still be surprised if we're just going to do one virtual community session about the housing element, but I would hope that we would have at least that one. So I look forward to getting some more information about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Tracy, next.
Yes, we have someone from Kind Farms.
Thank you, Tracy, so much. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can.
Well, I'd really like to thank you guys for all the time you're putting in tonight. I know there's been a lot of different topics. My name is Tim Skimmel. I'm from Kind Farms. I'm a legal cannabis cultivator right outside Winters on Road 89, about 5 miles north of you guys. I also have a retail dispensary in the city of Davis. And I noticed that the discussion tonight, there was an aspect of it that had to do with cannabis. I understand that this is a very complex issue. It's a very sensitive issue for you all as council members. It's nothing that we can solve overnight. It's nothing I can solve on a 3-minute comment. But what I would really like to do is just offer my, I guess, my retail dispensary and my farm that's right north of you guys. And I really would love to give you guys a tour, answer any questions. There's a lot of, how should I say, misconceptions about the industry. And one thing that really we've kind of strived on is really trying to professionalize the industry and taking it to the level that it needs to be at now that it's legal in the state of California. And I just want to offer, my 2 businesses for you guys to help answer any questions, help educate, Not trying to steer you any way, one way or another, but I just want you guys to be able to make the best decisions possible. And one good thing about, the Prop 64 is, it's come down to local decisions. So, local governments are allowed to make their own decisions based off their community. And I think it's really important for the city of Winters to understand what that means, what businesses would fit with the city of Winters, what businesses wouldn't. And I just want to offer, my expertise and everything I've learned over the course of the last 5 years to every one of you. And I just want to say that I'll be reaching out in the next couple of weeks to everyone individually, and I would really appreciate and be honored to help educate and answer any questions I can to help you guys make better decisions on this topic. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ken. Tracy, anybody else?
Yes, we have Jeb Taylor.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, my name is Jeb. I'm a longtime Yolo County member, and I noticed the cannabis and potentially a business in downtown Winters was on the agenda. And I just want to extend my personal support for potential dispensary in Winters. While I'm not a staunch advocate for cannabis in general, I think the train has left the station. And many communities and cities are benefiting around us, and I think that Winters should certainly really seriously consider the opportunity, from an employment and a revenue perspective. And so I just wanted to kind of weigh in and let you know, at least personally, that I think that this idea is entertained and supported.
Thank you, Chad. Tracy, anybody else?
Let's see here. No, we have some chat, but they're open to everybody, so everybody should be able to see those, the comments under the chat feature.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further council comment? Okay, I'll just make a couple of quick comments. One, thank you again, John, for all your work on this. We really appreciate it. It's going to be very helpful moving forward. And also, even though this wasn't specifically about cannabis, it seems to keep popping up lately. And I'm sure that is a topic that will be back before us in most likely the near future in some fashion. I know there's a lot of things that would have to happen for Winters to move forward with that, but it's something I believe that we will have to take another good hard look at in the near future. With that, I think, let's see here. Yeah, I think that's it for that one. Next, we have Resolution 2020-49, which is a resolution of the City Council for the claim for Transportation Development Act funds. And I believe, Shelley, you're taking that?
Yes, Mayor. So this is the annual claim for our Transportation Development Act funds. We get an allocation each year through SACOG, and SACOG determines how much that is working with Yolo County. And in order for the city to access those funds, we have to prepare a claim form and adopt a resolution. So this year, our total allocation from SACOG is $464,232. $104,940 will be expended for the Yolo bus service. $12,666 will be expended for SACOG planning expenses, and the balance of $346,626 can be used for street and sidewalk work. So we can pair that up with our SB1 money, and have more money to put into our streets for this next year.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody on the council have a question or concern to ask staff about this item?
I just want to say,
I noticed the portion that we put towards the YOLO bus, and I brought this up when I had my meeting with the city manager about, how much we spend on the YOLO bus services every year. And the amount that we're spending this year, $104,940, is quite a bit lower amount than we paid in the past. As most people know, and I know Councilmember Lauren quite aware, she's on the committee with the YOLO Transportation District, and we no longer have the full-time bus service in winter. We have microtransit services available to people on demand. And I think that's something we may want to look at for future, and I'm sure they're probably already looking at that. But that does help to make more money available to us for fixing up our streets and sidewalks and doing planning for transportation around here. We don't have very many sources of funding for that, so I think it's key that if we can make more of these TDA funds available by looking at the YOLO transportation, that's a very good option.
Yeah, I would just like to say something. Yeah, sorry, I just would like to jump in on YOLO County Transportation District. So when COVID hit and everything was shut down in March, the YOLO bus decided that they would pilot in winters a program that they were already piloting in Knights Landing, and because of COVID, they could accelerate the pilot and not wait until 2021 or 2022, but they could implement it early. So we actually have 2 micro buses and seats, I believe 6, and you can put 3 bikes on it. And the amount of people riding is a higher ridership now than we had with our planned routes. But there's, we did have a meeting with both interim city manager Shelley Dunby and with council member Anderson about possibly because of the usage only having 1 microbus and going back to one of the routes that is, I believe it's the 220 that does the Davis and Woodland route, and having a hybrid system. But I'm not sure if that will lower our costs, but for all of Yolo County Transportation District, the COVID has seriously reduced ridership, and we did get some money from the CARES Act, and we're trying to have like a 3-year plan with that money. But our discussions about money and what we're doing with busing are ongoing, but we are definitely fighting to keep at least 1 microbus here in winters.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
No problem.
It's like stick a quarter in and you get the spiel. I didn't mean to just, but our meeting was last night. It was budget.
I will say I completely agree with Bill, and thank you, Jesse, for your work on this committee. I definitely favor the microbuses and the on-call. Seeing those huge buses rolling through town 3 or 4 times a day with literally nobody on them or 1 person on them, it just seemed like such a waste to me. But to be able to just make a phone call and for a senior to get a ride to Kaiser or a ride to Davis or Woodland or whatever, just makes much better sense, and I think makes much better use of the system, and it's bound to be more cost effective. So I'm glad to see that got pushed up. At least that might be the one and only good thing from COVID, is that got pushed up. And it's definitely a better way to go for a small community like ours than seeing big buses rolling through town with nobody in them. So thank you for that. Is there any other comment on this topic before we open it up for a motion? Tracy, is there any public comment?
No, there is not.
Okay. If there's no other comment, then we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Yeah, I move that we approve resolution 2049.
Okay, Pierre, you're on mute, but I got the hand signal. So we have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi and a second by Councilmember New. Tracy, roll call vote, please.
Okay, Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Councilmember Lauren.
Aye.
Councilmember New.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi.
Aye.
Mayor Cowan.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on, item number 3, Resolution 2020-50, authorizing for street closure on Main Street from Railroad Avenue to the mid-block crossing. I think this is just an extension of what we've already done, primarily for COVID issues, and I believe, Shelley, you are taking this one as well.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor. The city of Winters has permitted the closure of Main Street to allow for expanded outdoor dining with restrictions, with all the restaurants that have restrictions due to COVID.
Pardon me, I need to recuse myself from this matter of location within the area property.
Okay, no problem. Councilmember Anderson is recusing himself from this item due to property ownership within the area. Thank you. Go ahead, Shelley.
So we've been allowing the businesses to operate within the city streets. And when we received our presentation from Chris Turkovich at our last city council meeting, they put forth a request that we allow that street closure to continue through November 4th, 2020, in order for them to continue operating their businesses successfully and hopefully stay in business. And so as they brought that request forward, it was determined that we needed to pass this resolution. And therefore, we are asking you to approve Resolution 2020-50, authorizing continued closure of Main Street between Railroad Avenue and First Street until November 4th, 2020. Right now, they're only closed through the mid-block crossing, but I believe this would also allow for the Hispanic Advisory Committee to have it closed on the Saturday at the end of September, I believe September 26th, for some expanded in the evening, a little bit longer closure, just to enhance the community spirit and celebrate our Hispanic heritage. So with that, we would request that you approve Resolution 2020-50, authorizing the street to remain closed through November 4th, 2020.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or concerns for staff from council?
No.
Okay. Tracy, is there any public comment?
No, I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I think we can entertain a motion.
I would like to move the item.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lauren.
Councilmember New seconds.
Okay. Tracy, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anderson?
No.
Or he's recused.
Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biazzi?
Aye.
Mayor Cowan?
Aye. So motion carries with 4 votes and 1 recused due to proximity of property. Okay, we'll move on to item number 4, which may have the same issue for Councilmember Anderson, which is Resolution 2020-51, requesting authorization for expenditure of the bid funds for the downtown. Ethan, would this recuse Councilmember Anderson as well or not?
Yes, it's the same area that we're talking about. So okay. I believe Councilmember Anderson would like to recuse himself to this one as well.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, I believe Shelley, you're gonna discuss this one as well.
Yes, so since adding the restrictions on businesses due to COVID-19, many of the Winners area businesses on Main Street have had to pivot and move their businesses to the outdoors. And there's been some expenses related to moving their businesses outdoors. And again, as part of the presentation we received from Chris Turkovich last week, they requested the ability to receive some reimbursement for table lights and misters and other items to allow for the outdoor seating on Main Street from the BID. After we had the meeting, the last city council meeting, I did some research, and this expenditure has to be approved by the city council. So therefore, we brought resolution 2020-51 to the city council asking for permission to reimburse up to a maximum of $4,500 from the BID fund. And there's currently $14,377 in the BID fund.
Okay, great, thank you. Shelley, can you explain for everybody where the bid funds come from?
Yes, the bid funds are on paid for with a free business license within the city of Winters. The Winters Business Improvement District is the entire city of Winters. And when we issue building permits, the building permit fee is $60 and the BID fee is $25. And then there's $5 additional fees that the state has passed on. So every business pays $25 a year into the BID fund. And then those funds are used to help improve the business district within the city of Winters. So that's where the bid money comes from.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any council comments or questions?
Yeah, I would just say, I brought this up at our last meeting, and I recommend, this is a really good use of these funds. You know, we collect these every year on the licenses, and I think using these it's meant to improve our downtown, and that's definitely what the improvements that they're doing down there. The money can be used to help pay for all that stuff to keep our businesses viable, because if we don't, we won't have much of a downtown to improve. So I'm definitely in favor of using these monies for these projects.
Thank you, Bill. Councilmember Lauren, did you have a comment? Unmute yourself.
I didn't know I was still muted. Yeah, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Bill Biasi that this is kind of what the money's for, and let's support those businesses.
Okay, Tracy, is there any public comment to this item?
No, there isn't.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I completely agree with everybody else. This is what the bid funds are for, and especially right now with what we're dealing with not being able to do indoor dining and all the restrictions that the restaurants and the wineries and everybody's faced with. You know, this is just a small piece of what we can do as a city to help out these businesses and hopefully help keep them viable. So with that, we will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2020-51.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember New.
I'll second it.
And a second by Mayor Pro Tem Biasi. Tracy, can you please do a roll call vote?
Councilmember Lauren?
Aye.
Councilmember New?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Biasi?
Aye.
Mayor Cowan?
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. They can't vote. So, moving on, we will move on to the city manager's report. And Shelley, maybe before you get into that, our city attorney, Ethan Walsh, could you maybe speak a little bit about what's happening with your position? Is that something you can talk about and share with everybody? in the audience.
Yeah, yes, it is, Mayor, absolutely. So the council and staff already knows this, but this evening, so one of my partners at my firm, I think most people know I work for an outside law firm, and we represent the city attorney. And one of the partners at my firm has just recently been appointed to the Sacramento Superior Court, and she's leaving our firm. And as a result, we've had to move people around a bit, and I'm transitioning to be the city attorney in the city of Woodland. Unfortunately, Woodland and Winters meet on the same nights, and so I can't do both jobs. And so I'm going to be transitioning out of this position, and another attorney in my firm who is very well qualified and very experienced is going to take over for me. So, I've talked with the council members about this and with staff, but just publicly, I wanted to say how much I've appreciated my time here. I know the timing's not ideal with all the people who are leaving the city, and I do regret that. And I know you've been hearing a lot lately about how much everyone appreciates you and everything, but I can tell you from my own experience working with a lot of different cities that this is a really exceptional council, and it's a really exceptional culture that we've built in the city. And I think, it's attracted some really great people, and I think it will garner you an excellent city manager candidate, because they will see the kind of place this is and what a great place it is to work. So I just wanted to thank everyone from the council, the staff, and members of the community. I can honestly say that I've always felt very welcomed in Winters, not only by staff and the council, but the people in the community. Everyone has been exceptionally kind and considerate to me, and I do appreciate that. So thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan, and we really appreciate your firm's representation for Winters, and I know we'll be in pretty good hands with Iris as well. She's been to several of our meetings. She is familiar, and one of my things was you had to promise to be there to help her out and answer any questions on things that you've had so much involvement with in the past. And I know you're just a phone call away still, and we really appreciate that. So thank you for all your time and efforts for Winters.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, I should emphasize that I am still around. So, I'm here to help with any issues that I've created over the years, and we'll do so happily. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm still around for that.
All right, thank you again. Councilmember Lauren, I believe you have a little something to add real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a clarifying statement or a clarifying question. When I was requesting the presentation from the Winters Senior Commission on Aging, I was hoping that could be either on our next agenda or the second October agenda. So that it could be timely as we're in this process. Thank you.
Yes, yeah, I think we can do that. I see Shelley making notes, and we can check with the leadership of the Senior Commission and make sure that's a doable thing for one of our meetings in October.
Thank you.
All right, Shelley.
So, just in case nobody's heard, we did get the grant for the senior center. So, it came in after the last council meeting, and I kid you not, it came in like 5 minutes after I hit send on all of my Friday updates. So, we got to send out more information on that Friday. So just to give you a heads up on where we're going to go on that next, the grant was awarded. We have to wait for the contract to come in. The contract will take about 3 to 4 weeks to go through the process. And then once that contract comes in, we get it signed and we get it sent back to them. We'll be ready to start moving forward on putting together, wrapping up the bid packet, and then getting that project out to bid. So we are still a little bit of a holding pattern, but the good news is we know we're holding for to sign for the money instead of holding to hope we get the money. So, and then we Lisa Baker is working diligently on reviewing the neighbor work, which is a self-help project. She's looking at getting that all reviewed and making sure the financials look good, and then getting a DDA put together for that. So that project will be coming to you in a council meeting, maybe 2 or 3 council meetings away, depending on how long it takes for some of that stuff to wrap up. So basically, that's all that, other than, you know, everything John covered tonight. Those were the top things that I thought people would be interested in hearing about tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. If there's nothing else, we will adjourn the meeting at 9 p.m. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.
I didn't know if you needed to like back up and.
I don't
do
think
that
so,
action
because we
first.
covered, those resolutions covered.
Everything that
I
you
think
were
pretty much
authorizing.
covered, yeah.
Okay, I just didn't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
have
no,
that null and void something that you're trying to do tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're okay.
Okay.
If we're not, Ethan can tell us and we can back up next time.
Okay.
That light switch in there is getting changed.
What's
I don't care if those damn things are
does it go
required or not. I had to keep waving my hand.
I did that last
damn
meeting we're
dark.
at too. It's like, that is ridiculous.
Oh, God. Is Shelley upstairs?
Yes, she's in her office.
Run up there real quick.
Hey, Critter, how you doing?
Well, I was brain farting and didn't think it was the 3rd Tuesday of the month.
Yeah, I know. But with that, we get an extra week where we don't have a meeting or agenda prep. So.
Oh, there you go.
And I'm taking that whole week off.
You're like, I don't need to be here.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of vacation. I want to burn it before I get to the end of the year. So.
Yeah.
That just seems like a good time. My birthday week is the week I'm taking. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's next week.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, lady.
Yeah, so only have to work one more day this week on Thursday, and then I'm out for a long time.
Ooh, boy, howdy.
I know, I'm so excited.
Tell me what, Steven.
I'm telling you. Oh.
Are you still at the office?
Yeah, we're just wrapping up the meeting here.
Gotcha.
Let's see, gotta end that.